blessed. Welcome, everybody. Y'all can give me more love than that. Welcome, everybody. We are thriving. Are we thriving? Yeah. That's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about. So welcome to the Thriving After 60 University. As the screen shows, my name is Sean Perry, host of the weekly radio show called The Senior Zone. Now DC's #1 radio program for seniors and technically by seniors. Yours truly here. We air every Monday, we air every Monday at 10 a.m. on station WYCB 1340 AM here in the DC area. And then we are growing. We are starting in January, launching the Senior Zone in January on Mondays at 4 p.m. in Baltimore on WOLB 1010 AM on your dial. So I'm excited about that. Tune in when you can on Mondays at 10 in DC, Mondays at 4 in Baltimore come January. I'm also a long-time satisfied member of Kaiser Permanete. Woo! So, what I want to do right now is tell you why I chose Kaiser and why I choose to remain with Kaiser. And so I'll make it brief, won't go into all the details. But in 2012, I was not a member of Kaiser. My wife, on the other hand, and family, children of 4, were using Kaiser. They've been using Kaiser for 24 plus years. I refused. I didn't want the networks, I didn't want the referrals, all the stuff that I had heard, I just didn't want. In spite of experiencing it through my wife, I just didn't want it. So in 2012, I developed a blood clot that led to a pulmonary embolism, about 30% of my lungs blocked. Didn't know the severity of it. But I had to leave my primary care doctor. I was on another health plan at the time, and get in my car, drive down the block or so to go get the CAT scan on the imaging test that they had to, use on me to confirm the blood clot. And while there, I'm waiting. About an hour goes by. It felt like an hour. I'm starting to freak out. The doctor's got me worried that I'm about to die. And so I go up to the receptionist and ask them, what's going on? Why am I waiting? They said, we're waiting for approval from the insurance company. And so, make a long story short, I'm here. We got through it. But I remember that experience. 2 years later, my wife had surgery, and she developed a blood clot as a result of that surgery. But I saw how she was treated. She went from her primary care immediately downstairs, got the imaging test, and boom, 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 what's it called, the Lobanol, the blood thinners, she was good to go. All in about, 45 minutes at best. And so at that point, I decided I'm going with Kaiser. It took me 25 years. I'm a slow learner. It took me 25 years to learn that lesson. And that's why I chose Kaiser. Now, I choose to remain with Kaiser, not because of the cost, because it's affordable if you compare it. Not because of the quality of care. We have some of the top doctors, in the country that Kaiser recruits. It's not because of the coverage and all the things that it provides. What I like about Kaiser, and these are some C's I just gave you, cost, coverage, and care, is just the convenience of it. I like going into the building, with my car, park one time, see my primary care, see my specialist. If they give me a prescription drug, I go right downstairs, pick up my prescription drug. If I need my blood drawn, boom, 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 it's all done. By the time I get to the light sometimes, when I'm leaving Kaiser, my results are already on my phone. Am I lying to anybody? Am I telling the truth? So that's the Kaiser experience for me, and that's why I have chosen to remain with Kaiser. And I just love Kaiser. When I speak to people, I hear them tell me, I love Kaiser. I say, I do too. So hopefully you'll be in the halls one day as well. What I want to do now is, if I can, and before we get started, by a show of hands, just raise your hand. I can't see up at the top that much. So by a show of hands, who are Kaiser members in the house? Woo! That's a lot of folks. That's a lot of folks there, Joe. Yeah, that's a lot of folks that I see there. Now, if I can, by a show of hands, who's not a Kaiser member? Okay. I like that, I like that, I like that. So at the end of today's, you ready to get the red? Yeah, maybe one day, maybe one day. So at the end of today's program, I hope that you will tell all your friends and family about Kaiser Permanete Thriving After 60 program. This program today is open to everyone who's 60 and better. Not 60 and older, 60 and better. Who's better? Here we go. So it's open to members as well as non-members. Events and classes are offered in Northern Virginia, in our service area, in Northern Virginia, Maryland, as well as the District of Columbia. And we need your continued participation so we can help keep these no-cost programs coming to you. We're talking about weekly classes as well as social activities, some line dancing, you know, as well, that's coming your way. There's going to be a survey that you receive in your email soon, right after this event. Make sure to click on that email and you'll learn there about the classes as well as events that's coming up in your area in the future. So that's my experience, that's what's coming up. Check out your email. We have some exciting, truly exciting, information-packed programs lined up for you today, speakers lined up for you today. They are some of the top experts in the field, in their fields. There's a schedule that's in your bag, welcome bag today, that also has the website addresses of each speaker that will come up here today. Mine included, I believe. All the presentations will take place here in the auditorium that you're in right now. So before I begin, I want to take up or just clear some housekeeping details right now. The people, the lovely people that you see in the green shirts, give them a round of applause. They are volunteering today. They are eager to help you out. No tips are required. Just ask them for anything and they will bend over backwards to help you out. So that's a great thing. I want to thank the volunteers. For the restrooms, I believe if you go out the door here and make a right, the restrooms, to the left, sir? To the left. I was told the right. To the left are our restrooms. Please check out our vendor tables. They are there as well. We've chosen some selective vendors for you that we hope will improve the quality of your life as you move forward in this journey. And then afterwards, you can find out about some extras. Kaiser Permanete, their Medicare Advantage plan. You want to learn about that Medicare Advantage plan as well and all of the extras that come with that plan and that you'll receive. So in your bags, how many have a bag? Anyone receive a bag today? Yeah. The orange bags? Yeah. Y'all can give me more love. I need some energy. We're quiet here. All right? Cool. So in your bag, there should be what's called connection cards. You have those connection cards? Yeah. And these cards, if you fill them out, and exchange them, or you can fill them out and exchange them with your neighbor to your left and your neighbor to your right. Right? This is how we're going to stay socially connected. All right? Who does not know the neighbor to the left? Introduce yourself, woman.
I know me.
Like we in church right now, right? Yeah, look at your neighbor to the right. You don't know them. Introduce yourself. Take a prayer. All right, we've done that. Now, if you like that person, you can exchange that connection card. Like we used to write notes in school, right? I like you, check here, I like you. Next in your bag, we've included the latest schedule of the Thriving After 60 event, so you should have that in your bag as well. Check, right? We've also included 2 other resource documents. The first, and this is really, really important. I speak about senior villages on the senior zone regularly, and these villages are important. They're popping up around the country. So when we have villages here in the D.C. area, there are more than 75 neighborhood community groups that coordinate volunteers, right, to provide older residents such as yourself with services including grocery delivery, lawn mowing, and transportation. I need some of that right now. I'm still of able body. I can still use some of that help there. The goal is really just to help you and all of us live independently as well as age in place. We're going to talk about aging in place in the next hour or so. Some villages also have additional services such as social work discounts for local merchants as well as trips and cultural events. So check out that piece. get connected with the Senior Village. And if you want to start a Senior Village, you can call the Senior Zone, and I can help connect you with folks that help folks launch Senior Villages. So that's a tremendous resource you want to tap into. That's us helping us, older adults helping older adults. So check that out. The last document that you should have in your bag is a sample list of places where you can find out more about volunteer opportunities. Where you live. Volunteering is a great way to stay connected with other people and do good work at the same time. I know that once I turned 50 and I decided to launch the Senior Zone, and at that time, most of my life was about acquiring stuff. And I realized at that point, that stuff didn't mean nothing. It was just stuff. But until I started giving and sowing into the lives of our older adults, this demographic, the quality of my life started to change. I felt better about myself. If you're not volunteering and not giving, just try it out. One time, I guarantee you'll have a change in your heart. So that's enough about my preaching right there on volunteering. Try it and check it out. I promise you that you will have a great time there. Now that all the housekeeping is out of the way, here's how today is going to go. First up, our program will start. She's been on my show already. Her name is Emily Guy Birken. She'll be speaking about how to plan financially and emotionally for retirement. Then after she finishes with her speech and talk and advice and wisdom, we're going to have a 15-minute break. That's 10-minute breaks for the tardy and climb. Okay? 15 minutes, we don't start on time. I'm an Air Force retiree, so we start on time. Where my military, where my vets at, by the way? Are we in the house? Thank you. Let's thank them, folks. All right. Then after that break, after we come back, 15 minutes, 10 minutes for the tardy, we're going to have our second guest speaker. He's also been on my show, Mr. Louis Tenenbaum, and he's going to talk about how to adapt our homes and make them more accessible and how we can reframe national policies about the approach to age. So I'm excited to have Mr. Tenenbaum come up here at about the 10:20 time frame there. Then after he finishes, we're going to take another 15-minute break, maybe 5 minutes if you showed up late for the super tardy in the house. I've never met him until just a few minutes ago. You may know of him. His name is Mr. Matt Paxton. He is in the house. He's going to talk about downsizing for the future, wherever you plan to live. So I'm excited to see what he has to say and develop a relationship with him moving forward. At the end of the program, back where you received your breakfast upstairs today, if you're already upstairs, you're there, we will be receiving or serving boxed lunches at that time. Then at that point, the day will be over at that point. We got it? Housekeeping, the program, we got it all? You need me to dance again? No. All right, so here we go. I didn't memorize this, so I have to read this one, folks. They wanted me to memorize some of this script. I told them there's no way I can put all this stuff at 56 in my head and memorize all this stuff without any notes. So I'm going to read this one, but she is standing by and ready to go. I am pleased to introduce our first speaker. Her name is Miss Emily Guy Birken. Emily is a former English teacher, retirement expert, money coach, and respected personal finance writer and blogger. She writes with Live Like a Mensch. Did I pronounce that correctly? I pronounced it correctly. She writes the Live Like a Mensch column for the Daily Stretcher. She is also a contributor to Wise Bread, PT Money, Money Crashers, Yahoo Finance, Kiplinger's, MSN Money, New York Times Online, and Business Insider, just to name a few. She has also appeared on the radio program Consumer Talk, hosted by award-winning reporter Michael Feeney in San Francisco, as well as the Senior Zone featuring yours truly. Here she edits and writes, woo, right? Woo. That's San Francisco, this is the East Coast, right? She edits and writes for the FinCon blog, an annual conference of financial bloggers. She is also the author of The 5 Years Before You Retire, Choose Your Retirement, Making Social Security Work for You, and now, In Financial Stress Now. Emily has come a long way from Milwaukee, Wisconsin, where she lives with her husband, who's an engineer, and 2 high-energy little boys, Ari and James. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Ms. Emily Guy Birken.
originally from Baltimore, so this is, I'm excited to be here not only to talk to you, but also because it's a bit of a homecoming. My mom is actually here in the audience, which is really kind of a thrill. So, hi Mom. So, I want to answer a deceptively simple question today, and that's where do you begin to prepare for retirement? So if you pay attention to the experts in the media, there are 3 things that you consistently hear about what you need to do to prepare for retirement. First, stop drinking lattes. Yes, if you quit your fancy coffee habits, $1 million is going to magically appear in your retirement accounts. It's incredible. Second, invest your money yesterday. You know, if you just started in your 20s, you'd be fine now, silly Billy. Finally, just be wealthy. I mean, come on. Duh. Now, I'm being a little facetious here. I'm being a little hard on my colleagues in financial media. But you do get these sound bites that are not entirely useful. And that's because they don't ask the big question. Why is it so hard to prepare for retirement? They go for trying to treat the symptoms rather than really figuring out what the big problem is. So I have found that there are 2 big factors that make planning for retirement very difficult. The first is lack of a specific dream. So we pound the drum that you need to save for retirement, you need to have enough money for retirement, and it's because, or else, rather than because you are going towards something you want. And it is very difficult to motivate yourself to save when you're trying to prevent something you don't want. It's much easier to motivate yourself when you're trying to reach for something you do want. Second aspect, there are retirement myths. Even if you are trying to be responsible, trying to pay attention to what's going on in the news, trying to plan ahead, if you are basing your decisions on the myths and misconceptions that masquerade as facts, it's going to be much, much more difficult for you to reach the retirement you want. And then finally, there's information gaps. You don't know what you don't know. And that is, in some ways, the most pernicious problem of all. Because if you don't know what you need to be planning for, there's no way you can plan for it. So we're going to look at each of these 3 issues in turn. So starting with lack of a retirement dream. So you need to know why you're saving. What do you want from retirement? You know, this is a big question. And so I like to ask people to do the most fun thing you can do legally, and that is start dreaming big. If money were no object, think about what would you do in retirement. So imagine Warren Buffett comes down, he's your fairy god millionaire, and poof, you have $1 billion. You will never possibly run out of money. How would you spend your time? Maybe you would travel the world. That is a wonderful dream. Could be incredible to see all the different parts of the world that you dream of. Maybe you dream of enjoying all of your hobbies, even the most expensive ones, doing things that you never have enough time for. Maybe if you're like me, you just dream of a lot of free time and lots of books and at least 1 spare pair of glasses, just in case. So no judgment. Whatever your dream is, go for it. So now, those big dreams, they're still pretty amorphous. You know, if you say, I dream of traveling in retirement, that still doesn't really tell you, okay, what's retirement going to look like for you? So from there, I ask people to, in their big dream, to start getting granular, get into the details, the nitty-gritty, and describe what your typical day, week, month, and year would look like in retirement if you could live large. Discuss it with your spouse, discuss it with your circle of friends. Journal about it. Let it unroll in front of you like a movie, thinking through when I wake up in the morning through till I go to bed at night, through every week, through every month, through every year. What would your dream look like? And having that can get you on the path to figuring out what it is you want and how to pay for it. So if you know exactly what you're going for, you can plan for it. So here's the thing though. Warren Buffett is not going to appear and give you $1 billion. It's unlikely your giant big dream retirement is going to be exactly what you've dreamed about. So that's not bad news, however. Okay? The next thing I ask people to do is to ask themselves, let's say the money isn't there for my big dream retirement. What aspect of that would I most regret? if I couldn't have it? What would I miss most from my big dream? So let's say you dream of traveling in retirement. So if you're dreaming of traveling in retirement and you think, okay, if the money's not there, what would I miss out on? Maybe all of the wonderful cuisine you could get all around the world. Maybe it's meeting new people and learning new languages. Maybe it's getting to see all of the gorgeous artwork in museums all over the world. So what are those things that you would regret if you couldn't get your big dream retirement? And here's why this is such an important exercise. Because just because you can't have the big dream doesn't mean you can't have the things you value about the big dream. I call this your values-driven retirement. Because once you've figured out what you'd regret, you can think of ways to creatively fulfill that dream. So if you are thinking of all the wonderful cuisine that you could eat if you were to travel around the world, well, you can find restaurants in your hometown. You can take cooking classes. You could learn all about those cuisines, visit ethnic grocery stores, all of those things. You dream of going to museums all around the world. You can go to your local museums. Keep track of when the major artworks are coming to visit for exhibits here in the United States. If you dream of meeting new people, you could do something like host a foreign exchange student, and that would help you meet new people, get new experiences, learn a new language. And so even though that big dream may be out of reach financially, the actual values behind your big dream are within your reach. And here's the really cool part. Your values-driven retirement is often more fulfilling than your big dream. And here's why. When you have a big dream and you've got Warren Buffett's $1 billion to throw at it, you don't differentiate between some things that would be nice and the things you really want. If you have to be specific about what you can have, you're going to make sure you get the things that are most important to you. The other aspect of it is when you have the big dream, you're dreaming of traveling in retirement, you don't dream about motion sickness, you don't dream about jet lag, you don't dream about going to the post office 3 times because you keep bringing the wrong paperwork to get your passport. So there are aspects of your big dream that you are not including in your big dream that you can often bypass when you go for that values-driven retirement. So that is what most people are going to be able to get to, that values-driven retirement. However, what if everything goes wrong? What if you get laid off before you're ready to retire? What if there is a market downturn right when you retire, right after you retire? What if we have a zombie apocalypse and the only currency accepted is brains? What are you going to do? Well, in the immortal words of Douglas Adams, don't panic. Really and truly, don't panic. First thing that I suggest people do is look ahead. Don't wait for there to be a zombie apocalypse to start planning for it. Okay, maybe do that. But don't wait for a possibility of getting laid off, possibility of a recession, possibility of any other things to plan for it. Instead, get your number, which is the least amount of money that you might have to live on if everything were to go sideways. Now, this is the kind of number you don't like looking at. It's kind of like stepping on the scale on January 1st. You don't want to do it. However, it is often far more reassuring than you might think, and it is better to know even if it's not reassuring. So how do you calculate the least you might need to live on? First, look at what you have already saved. So go ahead and take a look at your retirement portfolio, at those accounts, figure out what it is, and figure out what that would be annually or monthly for you to live on. Add to that the projected Social Security benefit. If you are not already on there, socialsecurity.gov, ssa.gov, their website is quite good, and they have something called My Social Security, which will help you understand exactly what your benefit will be based on various factors. So you can know exactly what to expect depending on when you retire and all of those sorts of factors. So you can get that number as well. And then finally, what you can reasonably save between now and retirement. So get that number as well and use that to create your calculation. Now, what you come up with as the least you might have to live on, that may be a reassuring number, in which case you can feel like, all right, I am on track. That may be, I'll call it a motivating number. Instead of feeling like, okay, I will be okay even if the worst were to happen, you could think, all right, what can I unreasonably save? Where can I cut in my current budget to make sure that I have more to live on? So that least number, the least I could live on, could be a little bit higher. But once you have that baseline, you know what you're looking at, you're in a much better position to plan what I call your Plan B retirement. So when it comes to Plan B retirement, this is figuring out what is the least you need in your life to feel contented. And I like to tell a story of a woman named Audrey I knew, who unfortunately she had bad economic downturn affected her and her husband, and then her husband passed away. And she ended up living in a group home for seniors, which is nobody's ideal retirement. That's not what people dream of when they're thinking of their last years of their career. Boy, I hope I live in a group home for seniors who are not doing well financially. However, Audrey was very happy. Now, some of this was that she was a happy person, but she recognized what she had. She had 3 meals a day. She had a roof over her head. She had plenty of people to talk to in her home. And she is a woman after my own heart. They took her to the library as often as she wanted, and she had all the books she could possibly read. And that was the least she needed to feel contented. So I think that it's very important for all of us to think through on a daily, weekly, monthly basis, what's the least that I need to feel like I'm living a good life? And that can also be very reassuring because it can help you recognize that you don't need as much as you think you do. Now, if the least you need is caviar for breakfast, well, that might need to be adjusted a little bit, but you can figure out what parts of your life you need to protect to make sure that you have a retirement that feels contented even if things go wrong. So let's move on to retirement myths. So there are beliefs that are holding all of us back about retirement. Every single one of us has beliefs about retirement that are not true. Some of the most common retirement myths that I see over and over again, and they're common for a reason, are one, you need $1 million to retire. Now this myth is very common in part because it's a nice round number. It makes it very easy. It makes for a nice soundbite, but it is a myth. Second one I see all the time is the 4% withdrawal rule, which is that you can take 4% from your retirement accounts each year and protect the principal. So if, for instance, you do have a $1 million nest egg, you could take $40,000 each year to live on, and your $1 million will remain protected. So that is also, I'm not going to call it exactly a myth because there are times when it's true, but it's not something to hang your hat on. Finally, the biggest myth of all is that retirement is going to solve all of your problems. And that is, in some ways, the most pernicious myth. So let's look at each of these myths in turn. The $1 million myth. Now, the problem with the $1 million myth is that the number is both too big and too small. So on the too small side, as Dr. Evil taught us, $1 million is not as much as it once might have been. So depending on what area of the country you live in, depending on what you want to do in retirement, depending on what your lifestyle is like, $1 million may not provide for your full retirement. It may not be enough money. On the other side of this, there's the fact that only 6% of Americans have $1 million. So that means for 94% of Americans, saying you need $1 million to retire is about as useful as saying you need $10 billion to retire. People hear that, and if they are earning very little money, they might think, well, I'm never going to be able to retire, so I might as well not try. So this is the real problem with this myth, is that it leads people who might be able to achieve it to believe that they are set for retirement, and it leads people who may not be able to achieve it to believe that they shouldn't even try. So I prefer this rule, and it's from Fidelity. This rule suggests that you create a nest egg equal to 8 times your final salary. Now, the reason why I like this rule better is that it's idiosyncratic. It depends on what your final salary is. It depends on what it is you live on. So if, for instance, you are earning $100,000 in the last year of your career, you aim for an $800,000 nest egg. If you're earning $50,000, you aim for a $400,000 nest egg. And so that means that each individual is figuring out for him or herself what's going to work. So Fidelity further breaks this down by suggesting you save 1 year's salary by 35, 3 years by 45, and 5 years by 55. Now remember, if you do get started early, the power of compound interest means you don't actually have to put aside, if you make $100,000, $800,000 into an account. It means that you put money aside and let it grow. I also want to make sure that you know this is not a stick to beat yourself with. If you haven't reached these, that's okay. They're benchmarks, they're rules of thumb, they're suggestions. They give you a sense of what's going to work for you. If you're not there, you haven't failed. You just need to find a different solution. You need to adjust your strategy, whether that means learning to live on less or that means saving more aggressively. Another myth, the 4% withdrawal rate myth. Now this one came about in 1994 by a man named William Bengen. He looked at historical returns and saw that historically the stock market returns about 10% a year. So that means that technically every year you could take 4% from your nest egg and you would be totally fine because there would be an additional 6% growth. Now, this rule is absolutely true when there is more than 4% growth each year. The problem is, as any financial advisor worth their salt will tell you, historical returns do not guarantee future results. And there are years where you have less than 4% in growth, and there are years when you have negative. Anybody remember 2008? So rather than plan on something that is going to leave you scrambling when the market has a downturn, I prefer this rule. It's called the bucket method. This rule for withdrawing your retirement income assumes that there's going to be volatility. It is baked into the strategy. With this method, you have your money in 3 different buckets. For the first bucket, which you will be accessing in those first 5 years, you are going to put your money in stable investments where the principal is protected. So things like treasury bills, CDs, even savings accounts. You're not expecting a whole heck of a lot of growth there, but that's okay because you're using it for your living expenses. That second bucket, for years 6 through 15 or so, those are going to be more conservative investments, things like bonds, where you are going to get some growth, there might be some volatility, but you have the time to ride it out, and you still do want to protect the principal for the most part because you're going to need the money soon. Now, my favorite part of the bucket method is that last bucket. It's year 16 plus. You've got about 2 decades for that bucket, and guess what that means? That means seniors can invest like young people. You do have a long time horizon because there's money that you can invest that you're not planning on touching until you're in your 80s or 90s. And so you can be in the game in the same way that 40-something or 50-something or 30-something is and plan for a long time horizon. So you put that money in higher risk, higher return investments because you have the time to ride out the volatility. You're not going to have to worry if the market has a downturn. If there is a major hiccup in some industry, it's not going to derail all of your plans. It's just something you have to wait out. So finally, kind of the worst myth of all is retirement charming. Now, we've all experienced that feeling of someday my prince or princess will come. So I will fall in love with this wonderful person. They will complete me, everything will be perfect, and they will make everything wonderful. Now, the problem with Prince or Princess Charming is that you are bound to be disappointed because no human being can do all of those things for any one person. Retirement charming is the same way. If you believe that all of your happiness belongs in retirement, not only are you shortchanging yourself while you're working and saying, I don't need happiness now because I'll be happy then, you're also putting too much pressure on retirement to make you happy. Because guess what? You're going to be the same person after you retire as you are before you retire. The same things are going to irritate you. The same things are going to make you sad. You're going to be yelling at the TV on the same reasons you are before you retire. So retirement cannot do all things for you. So the way to fix this retirement myth is to invite retirement into your life now. So if you're still working, now that does not mean I'm saying blow off the marketing meetings that you hate. However, acting retired before you retire is a great way to not only enjoy your life more now, but improve the transition to retirement. So that means think through what are the things you want to do in retirement that you're saving for retirement. Bring them into your life now. Maybe that's starting a new hobby. Maybe that's doing some more travel. Maybe that's volunteering. Start doing that now, make room for it in your life now, and not only will that make your life richer now, but it'll make that transition smoother, it'll make it easier to work a little bit longer if you need to for financial reasons, and you'll feel much more satisfied with all of your life. And that's a lot better than assuming retirement charming is going to sweep you off your feet. So let's talk about information gaps. So the myths are pretty pernicious. The gaps are almost worse. So there are three main places. There's Social Security, Medicare, and life and retirement are where you are often going to have just big gaps in information. And again, we're going to talk about each of these in turn. So the first one, Social Security is not meant to replace your income. We think of Social Security as a retirement program. But Social Security started in the 1930s because of the Great Depression, because there were a number of seniors and the elderly who were in abject poverty. And Social Security was started to be a safety net, to make sure that people were not destitute. It was never intended to replace your income. Now, you may know that intellectually, but because we so often talk about Social Security as a retirement program, it can be very difficult to remember that it is not meant to replace your income. It is something that you should consider to be the gravy of your retirement income, not the meat. So it is much better to go into retirement without necessarily thinking about your Social Security income. If you're able to save enough for your retirement income that your Social Security is just that gravy, then you're in a great position. Even if you are not, if you treat it as if it's not going to be there in your head, you'll be in a better position even if you do have to rely on it, because you will have saved more than if you thought, it'll be there for me. Okay? Now that said, don't worry, Social Security is not going anywhere. Another major information gap about Social Security is you are going to pay taxes on your Social Security income. Now, we're about to get a little bit wonky here, and I apologize. It takes a little bit to explain taxes and Social Security, but here's where it comes in. Social Security needs to know what your provisional income is. That is half your Social Security benefits plus all your other retirement income. So, for instance, if you get $1,000 a month in Social Security benefits, then that means $12,000 a year, so $6,000 is half your Social Security benefits. Let's say you have $24,000 in all other income, just to make the math simple, so your provisional income would be $30,000. So that is then compared, your provisional income is compared to upper and lower base amounts. So, let's see if you can see that. So the lower base amount, if you're single, is $25,000. The upper base amount is $34,000. For those who are married, $32,000 and $44,000. So what happens is, so let's say you've got that $30,000 and you're single, so that means your provisional income is in the middle here. So you're going to pay 50% of your benefits are going to be taxable. Now, before you start worrying that means they're going to take 50% of your benefits, no. It means 50% are taxable at your marginal tax rate, which if $30,000 is your annual income, that's going to be 12%. So you're going to be paying 12% on half of your Social Security income. If you're working on a headache right now, I don't blame you. This is not easy to figure out. Now, the reason why I can say pretty definitively that you will pay taxes on your Social Security income is that these numbers were set in the 1980s. The lower base amount was set in 1983, the upper base amount was set in 1993. They were not tied to inflation, and they have not been changed since then. So, with inflation, it is likely that the vast majority of beneficiaries will end up having a percentage of their benefits be taxable, provided they have any income other than Social Security. So that is something that you need to be aware of and make sure you plan for. So another knowledge gap about Social Security is the fact that taking early benefits permanently reduces them. So again, assuming a $1,000 benefit as of your full retirement age, which is between 66 and 67, so let's just say 66 here. So if you take that benefit at age 62, you're only going to get 3/4 of it. You're going to get $750. As you get closer to your full retirement age, you get closer to $1,000, but it is reduced. Now here's the thing, it's reduced permanently. You're never going to make up that difference. Now the good news is, if you wait until after your full retirement age, then you can get more, all the way up to 32% more if you wait until age 70. Now, one of the reasons why this is a knowledge gap is that people assume that there is a benefit to taking it early because you'll have more money overall over time. This is the break-even analysis that you'll sometimes see. So if you start getting benefits at age 62, at $750, you are going to be way ahead of the person who takes it at 66 and the person who takes it at 70, all the way up until about age 77 is when everything breaks even. And then you're going to be better off having taken it later. And people look at that and think, well, that's so much more money for so much more time, for 17 years. Here's the thing though, the only way to win this game is to die young. So you don't want to plan for that. Plan as if you're going to have a long life, and plan to take benefits as late as you can afford to wait. That is going to be better for you, presuming you live a long life, which we all want. Okay? All right, let's talk about Medicare. There are things that we do not necessarily know about Medicare. First one being that Medicare covers less than you think. Fidelity does a study every single year. They calculate how much the average 65-year-old couple will spend on retirement on medical expenses in retirement. And as of 2019, they are going to spend $285,000. That's a lot of money. What's really worrisome about this number is that the 65-year-old couple is eligible for Medicare. So that means that's how much they'll pay, even though they're covered by Medicare. Now, before you start slashing your wrists right now, I do want to point out, Fidelity makes the assumption with these numbers that once you get sick once, you are going to stay sick. They assume that, let's say you break your hip, then you are going to continue to need health care, nursing care, things like that. Whereas in reality, most people, they get sick and they get better. So they may fracture their hip, but then they recover, they have the physical therapy, they're able to go back home again, and they're fine for a while. So Fidelity assumes a slow descent into poor health. I think we're better than that. However, you still need to plan as if medical care is going to be a very important financial factor in your retirement. Here's part of the reason why. Medicare does not cover prescription drugs, dental or eye care, dentures, hearing aids, routine foot care, but most importantly, long-term care. Long-term care is the kind of care that you need that is not necessarily medical, but helps you with daily activities such as feeding, bathing, getting dressed, so on. So long-term care is extremely expensive, and Medicare simply doesn't cover it. So that's part of that $285,000 number that Fidelity comes up with. And these are things that we need to be prepared for and know may be coming. Next thing people don't necessarily know about Medicare. Medicare sign-up isn't automatic. So it's not like your Hogwarts letter, you turn 65 and it suddenly appears in the mail via OWL. You are not automatically signed up. There are, in fact, 3 sign-up time frames. There's the initial enrollment period. This is a 7-month period that starts the 3 months before you retire, 3 months before you turn 65, includes the month you turn 65, and then the 3 months after you turn 65. That is the best time to enroll. If you enroll during your initial enrollment period, not only will you be signed up as of your 65th birthday, meaning you're covered from there, there's no penalty or fee for signing up during the initial enrollment period. That is not true of the general enrollment period. The general enrollment period is between January 1st and March 31st each year. You will not be covered until July 1st of that year. The penalty is 10% of the monthly fee that you have to pay for the entire time you're on Medicare. So, and that's 10% for every 12 months that you were not enrolled when you were eligible. And finally, there's a special enrollment period. This is for people who, when they turn 65, are employed or have a spouse who is employed that provides them health care. If you have that health care, you are not required to sign up for Medicare until 8 months after you've either left the job or lost the coverage. So there's no penalty for the special enrollment period. However, it is still a good idea to sign up during your initial enrollment period, just in case. So last thing people don't necessarily know is that you're going to pay a monthly premium for Medicare. So that monthly premium as of 2019, standard is $135.50. Guess where that money comes from? Your Social Security benefit. That's right. So if you are already getting a reduced benefit, $750 from the $1,000 that you could have gotten, another $135.50 is going to come out of it. The other thing to remember is that premium is based on your income. So that's the standard premium. The vast majority of beneficiaries will be paying that premium. However, if you have a higher income, you may pay a higher premium. Also, the premium can change from year to year, and it never goes down. So, this is something people need to recognize and make sure that they plan and budget for. So, one thing that is really nice that you can do, there are Medicare Advantage plans that can make this much easier. So, Medicare Advantage plans are offered by insurers such as Kaiser, Permanete. And these Advantage plans can save you money, and they can give you more comprehensive coverage, and they can make things a lot less frustrating to figure out. Now, the Medicare Advantage plans, it's always up to you to do your due diligence to find the right plan for your situation, but they can be a great option to make sure that you have the coverage you need without feeling overwhelmed. So, last thing I want to talk about is the biggest knowledge gap of all, and that is loneliness in retirement. Okay? So, we do know about the idea of a lonely senior. That's not news. But what people don't realize is that more than 40% of seniors feel lonely on a regular basis. And loneliness is not just about a craving for company. Loneliness is not just, the kids don't call as often as I'd like. Loneliness has a severe health consequence. So people who are severely isolated and lonely, they have health results similar to if they smoked 15 cigarettes a day. Medicare spends $1,600 a year more on seniors who are lonely compared to those who are not. So part of the problem with the loneliness in retirement is how difficult it is to make friends as an adult and as a senior. Okay, that's because studies have shown it takes 90 hours of quality time to make a real friend. So the nice person that you chat with once a week, it's going to take a long time before you consider that person a friend. And there are not as many opportunities for seniors and retired adults to spend those 90 hours. So it's important to stay connected both before and after retirement. And I was very excited to see those connection cards because making connections is such a big part of making retirement joyful. So some ways to stay connected: exercise. Now, my grandmother used to say she was allergic to exercise. If she ever felt the desire to exercise, she'd lie down until it passed. However, and so I know she'd be quite annoyed at all of the studies that show that exercise really is the all-purpose panacea. However, exercising makes you feel more energized. It makes you feel more alive and more willing to go out and enjoy the world. So any kind of exercise you can do really is going to improve your ability to connect with others. So not only does it get you out there, if you have your walking buddies, but it also makes you more willing to get out there because you get those wonderful endorphins. Volunteering. Sean mentioned the importance of volunteering, and I would like to reiterate just how great volunteering can be both before and after you retire. Not only does it expand your social circle, but it helps you to feel like you're giving back, which is very, very important for all of our well-being. You're putting good out to the world, you're meeting people with similar viewpoints and similar values, you're making friends, and volunteering can be such a wonderful way to enjoy your retirement and the time before you retire. And continuing to learn. Learning should be lifelong. Whether you're learning a new hobby, learning about photography, throwing clay pots, or you are keeping up on all of the news nationally and internationally, reading new books, however you want to keep learning, that will not only help you expand your social circle as you meet other people who are interested in what you are learning, but it helps keep your brain nice and young. So I want to leave you with this last thought. We talk about retirement in terms of financial preparation. Okay? We talk very much about we need to prepare for retirement financially, but I want to turn that on its head. Okay? You want to live the life you want to live. You should have your money support that. Okay? So create the life you want to live and have your money support that life. And that will help you have joyful, contented, fulfilling, and comfortable outcomes for you. Okay? So, just to, if you want to get in touch, you can reach me at my website. Thank you very much.
Great information. Thank you. Dream big.
Dream big.
Dream big.
It's the most fun you can have legally.
My mentor, and I have a mentor, and he's younger than I am, just by a year, right? But he tells me, when I say dream big, he says, then dream bigger, right? And that's how I've been able to this far elevate, the senior zone. So I like that advice. And MAPD's Medicare Advantage plans, I have my own mama on one. She's up in Philadelphia, but I got her on one, so that's good advice as well. So, folks, I want to open it up now. First, thank you, Emily Guy Birken, again, for coming out and sharing information. Really informative, thought-provoking. What we're going to do now is we're going to open up for a 10-minute Q&A session with Emily. I believe we have mics that are available. Just raise your hand. There we go.
Hi. You talked about Medicare enrollment. I do plan to work past the age of 65, but you said that the initial enrollment period would be the best time for you to sign up. But then you also said that you pay a premium for Medicare. And I know I'm just irrational for saying that it would be better to sign up for Medicare the initial enrollment period, even though I'm continuing to work.
So Medicare will allow you to be double covered, and so yes, you would pay a premium. So they, because they have that special enrollment period, you can wait until you either leave your job or you lose that coverage if your job continues to cover you after you have left your job. So the main reason why I encourage people to sign up during that initial enrollment period is because of the penalty, just in case they forget. And so, yes, if you are able to continue with your employer's plan, and that does not cost you anything out of pocket, you are welcome to do that, and you can wait until you have within 8 months of either leaving the job or losing the coverage, whichever comes last, before you are in violation, basically, and you may have to pay a penalty. So you do have time, and that double coverage can make sure that you have all the coverage you need, but if taking that premium out of your budget would be onerous, then go ahead and wait, and you will be fine.
I believe our next question is up in the balcony.
I'd like to know if it's possible to get a copy of the presentation written form, email.
I will be collecting email addresses out when I'm at the table. So go ahead and find me there. Get me your email address, and anyone else who's interested. I can send you copies of my slides. I unfortunately don't have the presentation written down entirely, but I can get you copies of my slides and notes, and I'll send that along.
That's kind of like Miss Andrea up there. Was that Miss Andrea? Yes, it was. I know my seniors. I know my seniors. Any more questions over here to the all right?
Good morning. Hi. I have a question. Hello?
I'm sorry, I don't.
We're going to come back over.
Oh, there we go. Okay, yes.
You mentioned once we sign up for the Medicare, and those premiums will deduct from our Social Security paycheck.
Mm-hmm.
So what if I plan to, as instructed, the best way, which is delay to take Social Security money until 70 years old?
Mm-hmm.
So between 66 and 70, I plan to sign up for Medicare. So where those premiums would come from? I need to mail a check every month to Medicare?
To be honest, I'm not entirely sure how they work that out. My suspicion is that there is that they will do an auto debit from your bank account until you have signed up for Social Security.
They bill you quarterly.
They bill you quarterly. Thank you very much.
Over here. All right.
Good morning.
Hi.
I wonder, if you talk about Medicare, I wonder if someone could be eligible for both Medicare and Medicaid, and how would that work?
I believe that you can be eligible for both. Medicaid is specifically for people who are have very little income. And so, so you can be on Medicaid and be under 65. I have an aunt, for instance, who has been on Medicaid for much of her life, just based on her particular disabilities and her income. And again, I believe that Medicare and Medicaid are working in concert if you are on Medicaid, if you are over the age of 65.
Dual
eligibility.
Up in top.
Yes.
Yes, my wife and I both retired federal employees, and so she retired first. I'm on the hospital Kaiser with her, but I'm going to turn 65 in a couple of months. So do I have to take that Medicare right away? What do I need to do?
So you are on your wife's plan? Is that what you're saying?
That's the rule under the government. I can't get the separate plan. I have to be, because we're both federal.
Okay. I'm afraid I don't know the rules for federal employees off the top of my head. You're welcome to email me, and I'd be happy to answer that. If anyone in the audience, we could crowdsource, happens to know. Again, these federal employees, they end up having those special rules, and it can get very particular and arcane when it comes to those special rules. So I'm not sure off the top of my head, but I can certainly email you with that answer.
All right, thank you.
Oh, over here. Yes.
If you defer your Social Security until age 70, are you getting interest on it?
Basically, if you defer Social Security until age 70, you get basically what amounts to an additional 8% per year. And so those are called delayed retirement credits.
Okay.
And so those delayed retirement credits are added to what your monthly benefit is.
So when you turn 70, you get that 8% extra on your what you paid.
What it is that you start, so say you have $1,000 benefits, and 66 is your full retirement age. When you turn 70, if you wait until then to take your benefits, you will start getting, instead of $1,000 a month, you'll get $1,320 a month.
Right here in the middle.
Question, I need clarification on the fact that you said that the standard monthly premium for Medicare is $135.50. Is that for Part A or Part B?
That's for Part B.
Part B.
Yeah, for the vast majority of Medicare beneficiaries, Part A is free, and Part B is, Part A is basically just hospital insurance. Part B is more like the insurance you're used to from while you were working.
We're going to take two more questions, and then we have to move forward. Is that okay? Okay, right here.
I was going to
Yes.
answer the question about federal benefits.
Oh, thank you.
If you are a federal employee, you get Part A, you should sign up for Part A. You can take Part B, you don't have to because you already have health insurance that will cover you. I do have friends who have done both, and they have found that to be advantageous, although I'm not sure why.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. The lady mentioned that if you are a federal employee, you get Part A for free, and you can take Part B, which you get also in addition to the insurance you're already getting, but you don't have to. So she's had friends who do both, who choose not to take Part B and who have chosen to take Part B, and I think she's saying those who've taken Part B felt that that was an advantage, but she's not sure why.
Hospital stay.
I'm sorry?
You have a hospital stay. You might have to pay.
Yes. So with a hospital stay, you may have to pay something out of pocket. Is that the question? That's going to be true pretty much no matter what, unfortunately.
One more question.
Question right over here.
I think my question has already been answered. I was going to ask about can you just take the A and leave the B to later? You still can pick up the B later, right?
Yes, you can, but again, if you pick up the B later and do not have other coverage, you are going to pay that monthly premium penalty, which you'll pay for the rest of the time that you are on Medicare. But you do have the right to just take A and not take B.
So Kaiser Permanente has a table right out front for specific Medicare questions. We're happy to address them all morning long. So anyone that has a question can address it with our folks at the table. I think that's it for now. Can we give another hand?
Yes.